the man who died alone and lit up the world. He died alone in a hotel room, penniless, without family. His belongings were confiscated that very same day, and 50 years later, his name was placed on every electric car in the world. This is the story of Nikola Tesla, and it is far stranger than you think. July 10th, 1856, the village of Smiljan, the Austrian Empire, present-day Croatia. It was midnight, and a storm of such ferocity raged over the mountains that the neighbors did not leave their homes for 3 days straight. It was in that very moment, between claps of thunder, that the second son was born to Milutin Tesla, an Orthodox priest. The midwife looked at the child and said to the mother, "Georgina, this child is a child of darkness. He will bring misfortune." The mother replied quietly and calmly, "No, he is a child of light." She had no idea how literally she would be proven right. Nikola grew up a strange child, and he admitted as much in his autobiography, written in 1919. He possessed a phenomenal memory. He could memorize an entire book after a single reading, recite pages verbatim, reproduce technical drawings from memory with pinpoint precision. But he was also tormented by visions, bright flashes of light before his eyes that appeared on their own, especially in the dark, especially when he was agitated. Doctors didn't know what to make of it. Nikola decided to use it as a tool. He trained himself to run three-dimensional models of his future inventions inside his mind, to mentally start an engine, watch where it would fail, correct it, without putting a single line on paper. His father wanted him to become a priest. Nikola wanted to be an engineer. In the family, this was a serious conflict. His father did not merely disapprove, he categorically forbade even the mention of an engineering education. And then Nikola fell ill. The year was 1873, he was 17, and he had cholera. For 9 months he hovered between life and death, and his father sat at his bedside every single day. At some point, when the boy was at his very worst, the father said aloud what he had never said before: "Survive, and I will send you to the finest engineering school in Europe." Nikola survived. His father kept his word. 1875. Graz, Austria, the Joannem Technical University. Nikola Tesla was a student in the physics department, and within just a few months, he had become a genuine headache for his professors. Not because he was struggling, but for exactly the opposite reason. One day, Professor Poschel was demonstrating a direct current machine to the class, the standard electric generator of the era, bulky, sparking, and unreliable. Tesla raised his hand and said calmly, "What if we eliminated the commutator entirely? A brushless machine would perform far better." Poschel stopped. He slowly turned to face the student and said in front of the entire class, clearly and with full confidence, "Mr. Tesla may achieve much, but this, never. It contradicts the laws of nature." Tesla recorded this moment word for word in his autobiography and remembered it for the rest of his life, not with bitterness, with the cold curiosity of a man who knows with certainty that his professor is wrong, but cannot yet prove it. In his first year, Tesla passed exams in 9 subjects instead of the required 5, and received the highest marks in all of them. The dean wrote a letter to his father. "Your son is a star of the first magnitude." But by his 3rd year, everything unraveled. Tesla had developed a compulsion for gambling, cards, billiards. He would lose his stipend, win it back, then lose everything again down to the last coin. This was not a weakness of character. It was the obsession of an analytical mind trying to calculate a system where, by its very nature, no system exists. He never finished university, not in Graz and not later in Prague, where he transferred. Without a degree, without any official credentials, at the age of 24, he was working as a technician at a telephone exchange in Budapest, fixing equipment and stringing wires along city streets. And it was there, in Budapest, strolling through a park at sunset in February of 1882, that he suddenly stopped. He pulled a stick from the ground, drew a diagram right there in the dirt, and within a matter of minutes, standing on a park path without a single sheet of paper, he had fully articulated the operating principle of the alternating current motor, the very invention Professor Purcell had declared impossible. 6 years later, it would change the way electricity works across the entire world. 1884. Nikola Tesla arrived in New York with 4 cents in his pocket. The letter contained a phrase that would be quoted in every biography that followed. "Dear Edison, I know 2 great men. You are one of them. The second is the man who brought you this letter." Edison was 37 years old. Tesla was 28. Edison read the letter, looked at this tall, lean European with impeccable manners, and said simply, "All right, let's see what you can do." Tesla could do a great deal. Over the following months, he completely redesigned 24 dynamo machines at Edison's main power station, making them considerably more efficient and reliable. He worked 18, sometimes 20 hours a day, arriving before anyone else and leaving after everyone had gone. Edison took note and once said to his workers with undisguised admiration, "This Parisian is the finest worker I have ever seen in my life." And here begins the chapter that historians still debate to this day. Tesla claimed that Edison had promised him $50,000, an enormous sum by the standards of 1884, if he solved the dynamo problem. Tesla solved it completely. He came to collect, and Edison replied with a smile, "Tesla, you simply don't understand American humor." Instead of $50,000, Edison offered a raise of $10 a week. Tesla set his tools on the table and resigned the following morning, but the real conflict between them ran far deeper than money. Edison had built his entire electrical empire on direct current. The wires from each of his power stations carried electricity no further than 1.5 miles, because direct current lost nearly all of its power over greater distances, a law of physics that could not be circumvented. This meant that every district of every city required its own power station. Edison had poured millions of dollars into this system, built it from the ground up, and it was his. Tesla was proposing alternating current. It could be transmitted hundreds of miles with minimal loss. A single power station could supply electricity to an entire region, an entire state. Edison understood this perfectly, and that is precisely why alternating current was, to him, an existential threat. A war began. It was called the War of Currents, and it was the strangest war in history. Not a single shot fired, but with very real casualties. Edison launched a public campaign of fear against alternating current. His employees traveled from city to city, staging demonstrations in the streets. They ran alternating current through stray dogs and cats in front of gathered crowds, supposedly proving its lethal danger. Edison called this act Westinghousing, after the entrepreneur George Westinghouse, who had by then believed in Tesla's system and begun financing it. The campaign was brutal and calculated. It did not work, because physics has no interest in reputation. 1893, Chicago, the world's Columbian Exposition. 27 million visitors over 6 months, more than the entire population of Canada at the time. The organizers announced a tender for the electrical illumination of the vast exhibition complex. Edison submitted a bid of $1,800,000. Westinghouse and Tesla offered their alternating current system for $399,000. They won the contract, and on the night of the opening, May 1st, 1893, President of the United States Grover Cleveland pressed a small button and 200,000 electric bulbs lit up simultaneously across the entire complex. The crowd stood motionless. Journalists wrote afterward that many people in that moment wept. They had simply never seen anything like it in their lives. It was the first time in history that an entire large architectural complex had been illuminated by electric light. The war of currents was over. Alternating current had won. But for Tesla, this victory was merely the beginning of his next and far more ambitious idea, and it would ultimately destroy him. By 1900, Tesla was famous across all of America. His patents numbered over 300. The Century magazine dedicated a 20-page article to him with photographs. And it was then that he decided to do something that seemed utterly mad, even to his supporters. He wanted to transmit electricity without wires directly through the earth and the atmosphere, for free, for the entire world, literally the entire world. Any person at any point on the planet could receive energy simply by driving a wire into the ground. His backer was John Pierpont Morgan, one of the wealthiest and most powerful bankers in American history. Morgan allocated Tesla $150,000 to construct a tower on Long Island. Construction began in 1901. The tower stood 57 meters tall, crowned with a copper dome 20 meters in diameter. Its foundations sunk deep into the earth. Tesla called it Wardenclyffe and planned for it to become the first node of a global wireless energy network that would encircle the entire globe. But in that same year of 1901, something happened that shattered everything. The Italian inventor, Guglielmo Marconi, transmitted the first transatlantic radio signal from England to Canada. Newspapers across America celebrated him as a genius who had ushered in a new era. Morgan read those articles and wrote Tesla a short, cold letter. If Marconi can transmit signals without wires, what do we need your tower for? Tesla replied at once. It was his own patents that Marconi had used for his transmitter. All 17 foundational technical patents belonged to Tesla, and Marconi knew it. This was the truth. In 1943, the Supreme Court of the United States would officially confirm Tesla's priority in the invention of radio. But in 1901, it made no difference. Morgan cut the funding. The workers were paid off and dispersed. Construction of the tower stopped forever. The tower stood unfinished for 12 years, slowly deteriorating, until in 1917 the American military demolished it. They feared that German spies might use it to navigate submarines. Tesla learned of this from the newspapers. He did not go to watch. The last decade of Nikola Tesla's life was spent at the Hotel New Yorker in room 3327 on the 33rd floor, alone. With virtually no money, the hotel kept him on credit out of respect for his name. Every day he fed pigeons on the windowsill and continued writing notes in worn notebooks about wireless energy, about the nature of light, about engines that no one had yet built. On January 7, 1943, a chambermaid knocked on the door of his room and received no answer. Nikola Tesla was 86 years old. He had died in his sleep the night before, alone, in the hotel room where he had spent the final decade of his life. That same day, FBI agents entered the room and methodically confiscated all of his papers, approximately 80 crates of documents, blueprints, and notebooks. The official reason: national security. The vast majority of these materials were classified and remained closed to researchers until the 1980s. What did Tesla leave behind? If you switch on a light right now, that is his system. If you own a radio, a telephone, or a remote control, the foundations of those technologies lie in his patents. The power stations that today supply electricity to entire countries and continents operate on the principles of alternating current, the very current that Professor Poschel declared contrary to the laws of nature before a laughing audience. In 1960, the international scientific community named the unit of magnetic flux density after him. In 2003, two young entrepreneurs named their electric car company after him. Today, that company is worth more than $800 billion. A man died with 4 cents in his pocket. His name is now on the most expensive cars in the world. His mother was right from the very beginning. He was a child of light,